Here I've got a mini rack set up on the kick drum that's feeding into that drum bus. And I'm using these 4 processors, and I've got it gain staged here with the output reduced so as to kind of match the level when it's on or off. So let me give you a little before and after, and then we'll take a look at what's going on. And off. And on. So it's got a lot more personality. Now, to start with, the real defining element of this is this guitar cabinet emulation module that I'm running it through, which is very unconventional for a kick drum, but I really like the kind of space and vibe it gives it. So let's start by looking at this. I'll crank this up for the moment. So I'm using the 2x12, but the 4x12 is nice too. The others are too small. But I like that big one. Condenser mic. Big difference when it's off axis versus on. Now I'm running it through the vintage EQ next. Bring it down a bit. Just to give it a little more definition, I'm boosting at 60 and then attenuating. And that's one of the defining characteristics of this Pultec style emulation due to the nature of the curves and the width at the boost and cut frequencies. The way they interact creates a nice focused part when you boost and cut at the same frequency. So I'm boosting by this amount and cutting by a much greater amount. In fact, I have it all the way up. And that narrows the focus right around that frequency. And I've got a boost up high here with a little bit of attenuation just to add some click. So then I'm adding a parametric EQ for some very specific cuts. It's subtle, but I'm doing a dip all the way down low just to tighten up the bottom end, and then again around 293. Right around there. It tightens it up. That just tightens up the low end woofiness. And then finally the compressor. I'm using a classic compressor with a lot of drive and just very little of it in the dry-wet ratio. Just like that is enough. I could ease off on the drive and put that higher, but I like this sound better. And then here, I've got this boosted for the compressor. I just like the tone that it imparts, and then I'm compensating with this. So it just gives the kick drum a lot more character. Now, let's take a look at the snare drum. And here I'm only using 3 processors. So a lot more focused. I'm starting with the parametric EQ with a dip right around here, because that's where that honkiness is. That's where I dealt with it on the drum bus, but I want to do some more here, specifically on the snare. And then a big boost. I like these modules. I find, especially the EQs, strong amounts of gain or cut really seem to bring out the character of what these EQs have to offer. So big boost up at 4K. And I'm using the width controls here fairly conservatively. And it also brings out that splashiness of the hi-hats because of the bleed in the mics, which I don't mind. Since there's no dedicated hi-hat mic, it's bringing it out nicely. Really sweet. Next into this Fairchild emulation. And got a bit of dry-wet going on there. Really adds a nice character to it. A little too much. It's subtle, but I like it. And then another EQ. To bring back some of the low end after the compression. So here I'm cutting out at 560, and here I'm boosting at 340. Again, a fair amount. And then cutting at 400 again, but at a much narrower band. That's a wider Q, and that's a narrower Q. And I've got everything at unity here. And we'll just A-B it on off. And finally the drum bus with everything. So here's all three instances of Mixbox bypass. And now on. We'll continue with more in the next video.